So we are going to take a closer look at something many of us are quite familiar with, and that is Sumer. Now I have some news for you all, and you may not have heard this news, but a few years back, the Iraqi transport minister opened up to the press with a statement that the area of Dhi Qar is the site of an ancient airport, the first airport built by the Sumerians to be used by the Anunnaki to travel to and from space. This is what he said in the statement. Perhaps many of the people of the Dhi Qar governorate do not know that the first airport to be built on planet Earth 5,000 years ago, before the Christian era, was built here in Dhi Qar. If you do not believe me, read the book of the great historian Zecharia Sitchin, who is an expert on Sumerian studies. Read the books of Samuel Kramer, or the book written by H.G. Wells about this. History begins from Sumer. He talked about the first airport built on the planet, which was in this place. This is the safest place for airplanes to land and take off because some meteorological factors that limit an airplane's maneuvering ability do not exist in the Dhi Qar airport. Not only above the airport, the skies all over Dhi Qar are safe for planes because there are no negative meteorological influences here. The atmosphere throughout Dhi Qar is positive. It was from here that the Sumerian spaceships took off towards the other planets. The Sumerians were the first to discover the 12th planet, which was acknowledged a few days ago by NASA and named Nibiru, and which completes its orbit around the sun every 3,600 years. Sound familiar? Can it be? Does the transport minister know the truth? Well, that's what we're going to find out. So, let's do this. So in order to get to the bottom of this, let's first look into who the transport minister of Iraq is. Kazem Finjan. Now there isn't much in details about Finjan's history. This statement he made back in 2016 is what he's known for. Aside from having a not so transparent history, aside from his duties as transport minister, we do know of a situation that occurred back in 2017 where Kazem entered the cockpit of an Iraqi Airways flight and asked the pilots if he could land the plane with 200 passengers on board. The pilot then asked the co-pilot to give his seat to the minister so that he could land the plane under his supervision. Now, why these guys didn't say freak no to the minister is beyond me, but I guess they won't be doing that again, as the minister almost crashed the plane. In fact, he did crash the plane. The minister did not do a good job. He slammed the front of the plane into the ground, sending the passengers into a panic, an anonymous source said. During the landing, the plane suddenly dove directly towards the ground. We were all terrified. Women were screaming and some elderly were injured. Thank God we survived, the passenger said. Lawmaker Nadhim al-Saadi told the New Arab that Finjan should be dismissed from his position for his audacious behavior. What has happened reveals the minister's recklessness and disregard for the law, Saadi said, who heads Parliament's Services Committee. Kazem Finjan was also investigated for government corruption on the misuse of funds. Aside from that, we have, of course, the 2016 ancient alien claims. Now, the province of Dhi Qar is located in southern Iraq, north of the Basra Governorate, covering an area of 13,552 square kilometers, dominated by the Hamar Marsh and Euphrates River basin. The capital of Dhi Qar is Nasiriyah, which was the site for the new airport that opened in 2017. The same site where Kazem said was the first airport built by the Sumerians over 5,000 years ago. So, let's stop here. How many of you believe that? Forget about aliens for now. As ahead of their time as the Sumerians were, isn't it possible they may have achieved some form of flight? Let's think about this for a moment. Being the first known civilization, they would of course be the inventors of many technologies such as metalworking, the wheel, weapon making, the number system, astrology, mathematics, as well as the lunar calendar, and of course the first laws. Actually, let's take a look at some of the laws they had written out called the Code of ANNUNAKI. I'm going to quickly read through some of these because some of them are pretty funny. Of course, these are just the surviving codes that were discovered. Number 1, if a man commits a murder, that man must be killed. Okay. 2, if a man commits a robbery, he will be killed. 3, if a man commits a kidnapping, he is to be imprisoned and pay 15 shekels of silver. By the way, a shekel is about a half an ounce of gold. Number 4, if a slave marries a slave and that slave is set free, he does not leave the household. So if you're set free, you're pretty much stuck if you're married. Number 5, if a slave marries a native person, she is to hand the firstborn son over to his owner. Number 6, if a man violates the right of another and deflowers the virgin wife of a young man, they shall kill that male. Ooh, I don't like the sound of that. Number 7, if the wife of a man followed after another man and he slept with her, they shall slay that woman, but that male shall be set free. I know not too many of you like the sound of that one either. Number 8, if a man proceeded by force and deflowered the virgin female slave of another man, that man must pay 5 shekels of silver? Holy. Wow, okay. Number 13, if a man is accused of sorcery, he must undergo ordeal by water. If he is proven innocent, his accuser must pay 3 shekels. This sounds like the instructions for a board game. Number 14, if a man accused the wife of a man of adultery and the river ordeal proved her innocent, then the man who had accused her must pay 1/3 of a mina of silver. If prospective son-in-law enters the house of his prospective father-in-law, but his father-in-law later gives his daughter to another man, the father-in-law shall return the rejected son-in-law twofold the amount of bridal presents he had brought. Well, you may lose the love of your life, but at least you have all those presents. And then some. Number 17, if a slave escapes from the city limits and someone returns him, the owner shall pay 2 shekels to the one who returned him. Okay. Number 18, if a man knocks out the eye of another man, he shall weigh out a half a mina of silver. Number 19, if a man has cut off another man's foot, he is to pay 10 shekels. I don't even know why that's in there. Number 20, if a man in the course of a scuffle smash the limb of another man with a club, he shall pay 1 mina of silver. They're really specific, aren't they? Number 21, if someone severed the nose of another man with a copper knife, he must pay 2/3 of a mina of silver. Number 22, if a man knocks out a tooth of another man, he shall pay 2 shekels of silver. Number 25, if a man's slave woman, comparing herself to her mistress, speaks insolently to her, her mouth shall be scoured with 1 quart of salt. Good Lord. 28. If a man appeared as a witness and was shown to be a perjurer, he must pay 15 shekels of silver. If a man appears as a witness but withdraws his oath, he must make payment to the extent of the value in litigation of the case. Number 30. If a man stealthily cultivates the field of another man and he raises a complaint, this is, however, to be rejected, and this man will lose his expenses. Number 31. If a man flooded the field of a man with water, he shall measure out 3 cur of barley per eku of field. 32. If a man had let an arable field to another man for cultivation, but he did not cultivate it, turn it into wasteland, he shall measure out 3 cur of barley per eku of field. So yeah, you can see how pretty incomplete this is. But what do you think, folks? Do you think they were smart enough to figure out some form of aircraft after hearing me read through some of this code? Now, there were 2 things that Kazem mentioned that really stood out in his statement. One, that the meteorological factors that would restrict the plane from taking off or landing does not exist in that area. And 2, NASA confirmed the existence of a 12th planet called Nibiru. So we know that the second part isn't true. Nowhere has NASA ever confirmed the existence of Nibiru. In fact, they find every other planet or star close to us but that one. Now, the first part, he may be right about. The weather in Syria is, for the most part, nice year-round. The average temperature gets as low as 53 and as high as 93. They get at the most around 27 millimeters of precipitation in the wettest month of January, which is like an inch of precipitation, and it's mostly partly cloudy or sunny. So the question is, what gave Kazem Finjan the idea that there was an ancient airport in Assyria? I believe that what Mr. Finjan was referring to are the Mesopotamian ziggurats, which many believed were in every major city of Mesopotamia. Step pyramids, towers or temples to the gods. Perhaps one of these ziggurats was once what we know to be the Tower of Babel. Could these ziggurats be the ancient launch pads for their gods? Oh, we're going to get deeper into this. Time to open up some old texts and explore who these gods really are, the Anunnaki. So stay tuned for this. You know, sometimes it is not always about what has happened recently, but what happened a few years back. It helps us to get one step closer to solving this great ancient alien mystery.